This is Channel 2 News, coverage you can count on.
I think the integrity of the process has to be saved.
Any attempt to inhibit that right is absolutely unconstitutional.
An Assembly committee is hearing arguments for and against two bills that would require Nevada voters to have identification when they head to the polls. Coverage of the 2015 legislature tops Channel 2 News at 5 o'clock. A lot of controversy, a lot of opinions on both sides of this issue. The bill's sponsors say proving your identity at the polls will prevent voter fraud, while others say it will prevent people from voting. Good evening, everyone. I'm Wendy DeMonte.
I'm Kristen Remington. Thanks for being with us tonight. We're talking about Assembly Bills 253 and 266. Which are essentially the same bill. Paul Nelson joins us live from Carson with both sides of the argument on this issue, though. Paul, what types of IDs would people have to show if this bill passes, though, first off?
Well, Kristen, first of all, it would have to be issued by either the state, the U.S., or a federally recognized Indian tribe. And then second of all, it would have to have your photo, your name, and your signature on it, kind of like a driver's license or a passport. But the problem some people have with this bill is some people don't have those kind of IDs. Last November's midterm election had one of the worst voter turnouts in history, and some fear that requiring voter IDs will only make matters worse, keeping people away from the polls.
It's requiring you to have this additional form that a lot of people don't have. Studies say that at least 11% of Americans do not have the type of ID that's required by this bill.
The first election after the Indiana law was instituted, there was actually greater voter turnout. So no, I don't believe that will have an impact.
Assemblywoman Jill Dickman is the sponsor of AB 266. She says most people already have the appropriate ID with a driver's license. People that don't could get a voter ID card at no cost to the individual.
How do you survive in this society today without ID? We need ID to register our cars. We need ID to return something at Best Buy.
Critics say this bill would have the biggest impact on communities of color and lower income who may not have an ID.
It would be a substantial effort for them to try to obtain this type of ID, which might cause them to give up on actually voting.
Another area where the two sides disagree is whether voter fraud is prevalent enough to require voter ID.
As long as Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck and dead people are voting, we have a problem.
And the type of voter fraud that a voter ID law is supposed to eliminate is in-person voter fraud, and that is extremely rare. We almost never see anything like that.
The Department of Motor Vehicles says issuing voter ID cards would cost the state $325 each. That adds up to nearly $300,000 over the next fiscal year when you add in startup costs. The following year would drop to about $3,300.
It's very important to ensure the integrity of our elections. And if it does come at somewhat of a cost, I think we need to bear that cost.
Now, in Nevada, you do have to show some form of ID when you register to vote, but it doesn't have to have your name or your photo on it. You can actually use something like a birth certificate on it. Now, along with these two bills, there's also another one that the Senate is looking at. Covering the 2015 legislature live in Carson City, Paul Nelson, Channel 2 News.